Hello once again. I want to talk in this video a little bit about making an outline. Also a reminder that I have an outline for the narrative essay that is due Wednesday that I'm looking for. I know that sounds bad and you probably hate that, but I think that we can maybe improve the way that we do outlines. So I don't know if any of you had to do outlines in high school. I was required to do outlines in high school, and it was awful. I hated it, or I didn't do it. It was really annoying, right? It was, this thing. I don't know if you had this where you have like the Roman numerals, and you have the big A and the little a and the little b, and if you use a little a, you need a little b, even if you don't have anything else to say there. So that kind of outlining, we're only doing it because it's an assignment. We're only doing it because the teacher was grading it, and when we wrote our essay, we probably didn't end up looking back at it at all. It was just kind of another thing that we had to check off, right? Um, I understand this approach, and I had this approach myself. And it probably took me a lot longer than where you guys are. It probably took me till I was, maybe a junior in college when I had to write some longer essays, right? I had some essays that were maybe, supposed to be 7 or 8 pages. And I realized that, it was just too much to keep in my head all the time. It would make the essays harder. I would have trouble making them long enough. I would just kind of say everything that I had, and then I'd be like, well, that's it. I wrote a page. That's all I got. It's supposed to be 6 pages. And I know it's a problem a lot of students have. So what I ended up realizing with it, when you have to write these longer, especially in more complicated essays, you kind of need to have a plan written down in advance. Even, not everything, just like a few like main things that you're going to hit on. You kind of need to write it down and have a way of organizing it. Because if your essay is not organized, it's gonna be hard to follow. It's gonna be confusing. Your argument might not be clear, and that's kind of the easiest way to get a grade that's not what we're looking for. So I really do think it's important that you find some way of kind of organizing your essay a little bit beforehand that works for you. Maybe it's not the way that I'm gonna have you do it. Maybe it's something totally different. Maybe it's something that nobody else does. The important thing is just that you figure it out for you. You don't need the Roman numerals. You don't need all that, but you need some way that you can do this. So here's what I do. Here's what I started doing, and I'll ask you to do it this way, and maybe it'll work for you. Or maybe it'll help you find something that does work for you. So what I would do for an outline is at the top of the page, you want your main idea. Just write that out, your main idea. You can think about this as your thesis, but again, it doesn't need to be a thesis statement. It doesn't even need to be a full sentence, just whatever you think is your main idea right now, even if it's just like some kind of bullet point, or whatever. Or maybe it's a couple sentences, maybe you have like 3 sentences that you feel like that's the best way to explain your main idea. Whatever it is, at the top of the page, you just want to get that main idea, whatever's kind of working as your thesis right there. So for our essay that we're writing right now, that's going to be the part of, language is more important than people think. So maybe you want to include in there like the way that your story, my story shows that language is important because whatever way that your story shows that. But you want whatever that main idea is at the top of the page. Then what I would do is go bullet points, right? Bullet point, paragraph one, and I would start with the body paragraphs. Don't worry about planning the introduction too much. I have another video about introductions for you. But I would for the outline, I would focus on the body paragraphs because that's where the ideas really are. So you want to get a sense of what is the main thing that's going to happen in paragraph one. What's the main point that you want to make? Or maybe since we're telling a story, maybe there's certain things that you want to happen in the first paragraph. The first paragraph is you getting in a car and starting to drive to a job interview. In the second paragraph, you get to the job interview and you're waiting. And in the third paragraph, it actually happens and you have dialogue with the interviewer. And then you have a fourth paragraph where you explain your message. You just gotta have some kind of way of dividing it up like this, so that you can make sure, one, that it's in an order that makes sense, that the sequence makes sense to you, at least in some kind of way. Usually in terms of the order of the paragraphs, if it makes sense to you the way that you're doing it, if you could explain why you're making the paragraphs the way you are, then usually it'll seem organized. It doesn't really matter what your plan is, so much as that you have one, and that'll help it seem organized. So yeah, you might want to plan out what's going to happen in each paragraph, maybe certain things that are going to be in there, like in the first paragraph, like I said, if you're getting ready for a job interview, maybe you're gonna have a piece of dialogue with your mom, where your mom's giving you some advice about a job interview, whatever. So maybe you want to include that as like a little bullet point under paragraph one, right? So I try to have paragraph one, and then whatever details or dialogue or whatever is going to go in there. Then move to paragraph two. Okay, now it's a different part of the story. Here's the one thing that's going to happen here. So I know it seems a little silly, but by doing this, it keeps you on track, right? It helps you to stick to the main idea because you can look back to a physical piece of paper. It's not all, up in your juggling in your head. You can look back to a physical piece of paper and say, okay, I'm doing the second paragraph right now. This is what my main idea is supposed to be. What I was just writing, it kind of didn't have to do with that. So maybe I need to move what I just wrote to a different paragraph or maybe delete it. But you can always look back and say, like, am I sticking to this main idea or not? And that will help you to stay on focus, stick to the main idea, and remain clear. The other thing, it helps with the length of the essay. Like I said, that was one of my problems that I started doing this to help solve. Because the thing about like length a lot of the time is that you'll have some ideas, right? You usually have a few pretty good ideas that you think you can write about. And then you'll pull up your computer, right? You have a Word document in front of you, and you start typing, and you're like, all right, this is going good. I have this idea, I have this idea also. And you write maybe maybe a page and a half, and you're like, that's it. That's all that I had. That was my whole idea. But you only have a page and a half, and you need, in our case, 3 pages. Sometimes you might need 5, you might need 7. So that's a problem, right? That's where writer's block comes in. That's where we start to bullshit, right? That's where we need fluff to kind of space that stuff out, right? I've been there. I know what it's like. So making an outline, it also forces you to kind of save some of your material. Because in paragraph one, you know that you're only supposed to do this one main idea, right? So knowing that, it forces you to say as much as you can about that idea before you move on. You need to completely finish talking about, if for this fake narrative essay I'm thinking of, you can totally finish talking about getting ready for the job interview before you move to the next paragraph. So it makes you write that paragraph, expand on it as much as you can before you move on to the next one. And now you still have things to say in that next paragraph, and you know what's going to come after that. So I think by doing this, you can really start to write some longer essays, and I think that's something that students always want to know about, because it's going to be really helpful as you move through your years in college. So yeah, try it out making this outline, and like I said, go into this with the approach that you're going to try to find some way of getting your ideas down on paper that works for you, that will actually help you in the writing of the essay, not just to get the assignment done, because it'll help you later on to make it longer, to make it more focused, to make sure that you don't repeat yourself, and to help fight off writer's block. So I think this is going to be a really useful tool that's going to make essays less painful and hopefully help you get some better grades. So give this a shot. Again, it's due on Wednesday, and that's all I have for now.